you. Wow, great. Thank you all for sharing who you are, even a little bit. And over the next few weeks, we're going to get to know each other, hopefully more. Okay, so let me tell you about the series and what I've been, for months, I've been looking for the right curriculum. What would it be that I would pick to do like a few-week series at a time and make sure it's the most effective. And so I picked the 48 Ways to Wisdom by Rabbi Noach Weinberg. Rabbi Noach Weinberg was the founder of AISH, the global AISH. AISH is an outreach movement, and he has transformed hundreds and thousands of people with this series of the 48 Ways to Wisdom and to a successful life. And his whole thing was the emphasis on obviously viewing life from the perspective of the Torah, using the wisdom of the Torah, extracting that to make our life even better and even more successful and even more enjoyable. But also his idea was that it's not enough. Life and study is not enough, just the literal and the intelligence and like going to a class. His idea was we need the work, we need the progress, and we need to make sure that everything that we learn gets assimilated into pretty much our being, our values, our concepts into ourselves. So when we get to a point in life that we're not sure what to do, or midlife crisis, or anything that happens, it doesn't have to be something huge, we know that we're influenced by our teachings and by the wisdom to know what to do and to go in the right direction. So our upcoming series, although this has 48, sessions, we're not yet doing that much, but I picked the first 6 that I felt like would be super relevant to, everything is relevant in there, but I picked the first 6 that I connected with, and from what I felt like meeting with women all day, every day, what I think would be the most relevant right now to talk about, because our time together is limited. And the goal is to give you, after each session and in general after the series, you'll have a toolbox, because really at the end of the day, life will have challenges all the time. It's all about how we are reacting to life and to our challenges and to just being, interacting with other human beings, just living life. Not just myself, but in a world where there are other people around me and what that looks like. So the goal is to have the toolbox and a practical guide to make sure that when you get to a point where you're kind of like at a crossroad or you're not sure what to do, how to react to this person and what to do, how to make sure that you have a good conversation with someone and you know that it can be tricky with them or whatever that is, you can try digging into your tools, what you learned, and pretty much exercise on that. Because we understand that personal growth and working on our character is one of the hardest things. And it's also something that requires, like we know, work and time. We've got to be patient. So sometimes people are very into seeing results right away, but that doesn't necessarily happen when we want to have a big change in our life. If the change is done drastically from A to Z, probably not going to last long, and you're going to find yourself going back to where you were. The goal is to make progress. We will fail, and that's normal, and Judaism teaches us, we fail, we get up. We fail, we get up. That's how we move forward. And I would say that I picked, before I tell you what I picked for this week, but just in general, the idea of spiritual world versus the physical world. What do you think is more important in the physical world? The progress, your effort, or the result? Anyone wants to share what they think? It could be in the workplace, in your relation, anywhere, in any area of life. In the physical world, in the society that we live in, what do you think is most important thing? What's the most important thing? The work that you put in, or the result that you produce?
In the physical world.
Yeah, I'm talking about physical world.
Is this a trick question?
Tell me what you think.
Because
Okay.
progress matters. You make
Let's say
progress.
to your boss.
The result.
Let's say, they want to see certain things happen and they tell you ahead of time, this is what we expect.
For that to result.
Okay.
I also think it gives you direction.
Okay. But what would you say the most important thing in the physical world? You would agree with what they said, that it's pretty much what you produced?
Your boss doesn't care how you get it done. They just want you to get it. It's just a result.
You pretty much nailed it. This is how it works in the physical world. No one cares how you do things. You can produce them. You could do magic. They don't care. If they get the results they get, you're good to go. You scored and you're moving on and continuing. What is the difference between that and the spiritual world? What do you think the most important thing in the spiritual world? We have progress, which is a big progress. It's a lot of work. It's the effort, I would call it. And then you have the result. What do you think in the spiritual world is most important? And there's no trick here. Just say what you think. What would you say? Sorry, I didn't hear. Progress. Anyone would disagree or want to add to that? Everyone agrees that spiritually, and when we say spiritually, we mean internal work, making ourselves better people, better human beings, and to be able to live life to the fullest, and we'll see how that makes you live life to the fullest. So now that we understand that it's very different, the world of spirituality to the world of, outside there, we kind of have to shift our mindset when we talk about life. It's not about your it's not about the result. Yes, it's true, it's important to set goals, and we'll talk about all these things, but it's about the effort you put in. That's what counts, because that's the only way that's going to get you somewhere. Even if you don't see the results right away, it will happen if you are consistent and you're patient. So patience is one of the most important things. Now, today I will start with effective listening. You may be like, why is that so important? But we'll talk about it, and hopefully at the end you'll understand why. Effective listening is one part of effective communication in general. And that is, effective listening is one of the 48 ways to a successful life, and we'll see why. So effective listening, in Hebrew it's shmi'at ha'ozen. It's literally meaning listen with your ear. Okay? The Torah uses the word shema, when you say Shema Israel, shema, which is the same root as shmi'ah, listen. Hear, O Israel, it has a deeper level, the commentary says, that it has a deeper level of listening. When we say Shema, we focus, we pay attention, we pretty much meditate to get clarity. There's a lot to do with, a lot of explanation that goes with that, but just surface level, understanding that effective listening, Shmi'at ha'ozen, Shema, deeper level of listening. Paying attention and getting clarity. Now, let's continue. Let me share with you 3 things that will guarantee you the effective communication that you would want in life with people. It could be family, it could be while you date, in a relationship with someone, married, kids, anyone. 3 things that will guarantee you to have effective communication with people and avoid you from unnecessary drama, negativity, problems, misunderstandings, all of that. We'll start with the LRD rule. The LRD rule is listen, repeat, define. 3 things. Now we're going to go through each one and we'll understand what it means and why it's important. So obviously listen. What is listening? If I ask you, can you define listening? Anyone wants to define what that is? What do you do or you don't do when you listen?
You're not talking, you're paying attention to what the person is saying.
Incredible. Anyone else want to add?
Absorbing the information, it's not just going out the other ear.
Amazing. Wow, we're really going somewhere here. Amazing. So, listen. What it really means, genuinely listen. Okay, that's very simple. Have you ever been in a heated discussion, conversation where you really felt like you're not listened to? I'm sure everyone has had it at some point where you're in either conversation, discussion, whatever that is, but you're really feeling like the other people, the other person, they're not getting you, and they're not interested in getting you. They're just ready to give you back what their answer to the argument, or you feel like they're there to just push their agenda, but they're not really listening to you. And you know what?
Listening to talk. They're just waiting for the moment that you shut up so they can.
They just want to talk.
Right.
They want to share their thing. So they're not there really to listen, so it's not a conversation, right? I would say that, we all do that many times. We're in a discussion, and it's not even on purpose, but when someone is talking to us, we're automatically, many times, already preparing our head as they speak what I'm going to respond, how I'm going to answer it, like to give the best answer and like to make them realize I'm right or whatever that is. So what we're saying here, that before you decide to react, respond, reject an idea, accept an idea, anything in a conversation, the first thing we have to make sure that we do is I'm listening. I listened to what they said. I wasn't getting ready doing anything else, or like getting ready preparing my argument so I can respond when they finish. Genuinely listening. Now, it's fascinating that the word listen and silence actually share the same letters, exact same. It's not by, I would say, it went out.
I was trying to smell it, and it went out.
You can smell the other ones later. So, listen and silence share the same letters. When you listen, you make sure that you're silent and you focus, and you're like super focused on the other person to make sure that you heard what they had to say. And I will see why every step of the way here of the LRD rule is important. So let's say you did the first part, the L. You listened. You made sure you were fully there, paying attention. You weren't thinking of anything else as much as you can, and you listened. They finished speaking. And like we said, it can be in any area of life. It could be your boss. It could be someone you're dating. It could be someone you're married to. It could be your sister, whoever that is. Now let's move on to the second point. Next step is repeat. What do you need to do after you hear what they say? You repeat. You repeat their reasoning and what you understood that they're trying to say. Why do we do that? For two reasons. Why? A, making sure I understood correctly what they're trying to say. Because by the way, at this point, there are a lot of arguments that it could go either way. It could go to the right side or to the left side. It could be good if I am saying, oh, I understood that you said X, Y, and Z. For example, I'll give an example, which is kind of, I would say, very common that I hear, that women tell me, is, okay, I'm dating this guy, and we have somehow recently a lot of argument about the fact that he is not putting our relationship in the top priority. His work is more important, his friends is more important, everything else is more important, but not us. Obviously, it's a problem. So when there is a conversation like that, and one side is saying, let's say she, or he's saying, I don't understand what you want, whatever it is, or she's saying the other way, like trying to make sure that he understands her point. So at that point in the conversation, if one side, the side that's supposed to listen, would repeat what she said, oh, so you're saying X, Y, Z, it would already be a better direction to continue the conversation because you understand that the other person understood what you said. That doesn't mean, let's not confuse it with agreeing. That doesn't mean you agreed with a person, because many times you might not agree. I mean, we don't agree on everything, but it's okay to agree to disagree. We agree to disagree. So back to repeat. We repeat the person's reasoning to make sure you understood. So that's the first point why you're doing that. The second point why we repeat is to also give them a chance to correct their point if they feel like we didn't get what they said. They might say, oh, actually, no, that's not what I meant. So normally when we don't do that, An argument can start and become like super big. And on what? There was a miscommunication at the beginning, which wasn't clarified, and it went further. So again, the first point was listen. We genuinely listen, pay attention, and we're not doing anything else. Second is repeat. We repeat the person's reasoning, what they were saying, to make sure that they understand and to give them a chance to correct themselves if they feel like we didn't get them or didn't understand them correctly. Like I said before, for example, Alex is telling Jessica, I understand, after they were speaking, and then he said, okay, I understand that you feel I'm not prioritizing our relationship and I'm overly focused on my career. Boom, this is what she wanted him to understand. And if every guy would do that, there'll be less arguments if everyone follows. Okay, so that's the second thing of repeat. I would love to hear from you, before I move on to the third one. Give me an example of a scenario where you think also, like I said now, I explained when you do the repeat part, obviously the listen and the repeat, it can avoid you from going further to a direction you don't want to go, to a negative direction. Anyone can think of something that?
I use that every day at work, and we're even taught that in nursing school, like listen and then respond. It's called teach back. So you to make sure that you're comprehending what the person is teaching you or saying to you. But for my job, I'm on the phone all day with my patients, so it's really important that I do.
Yeah, you really need to do that, right?
Yeah, it could lead to a lot of actual harm if I don't understand what it is
Right.
they're asking.
Or you understood something else.
Yeah, like their symptoms. So I need to know that because that will determine how urgent or emergent their situation is. So that's just an example.
Wow, that's
I
really,
use it every day, so I definitely agree with everything you're saying.
yeah. Oh, that's amazing. Anyone else wants to share? That was like, wow, yeah.
I was gonna say I've noticed it before, like whenever you call T-Mobile, back in the day they didn't used to ask you, but a lot of times if I've called about something, they'll be like, so you're calling today because of this, and I'm like, actually no, that's not what I said. So then I don't need to keep going for like 10 hours.
Oh, that's great.
Recently,
That's good that you
like,
actually,
when you say like whatever, like okay, so you're telling me your problem is this, and I'm like, okay, but it's this, and they're like, okay, now I got it, and then we continue, or else it'd be like, no, you missed this, blah blah.
wow, they all have training now. They all learned this.
A lot of people got mad and they finally changed something.
Wow. Okay, well, that's definitely a step to making progress, in understanding people. So, okay, so we understand that these two steps, the LRD, the listen and repeat, are extremely important. But it's not the only thing. We still have the last part, which is also really, I think it's one of the biggest one that we're going to actually talk longer on. It's the idea of defining. What does it mean? Define your terms. And I'll explain. A lot of miscommunications and misunderstandings are happening because we're using undefined terms in our conversations and undefined values that we ourselves are not maybe entirely sure or never checked what that actually means. So let me give you an example. I like to give this birthright example, okay? So this guy, I don't know, we can call him Alex again. I don't know, there's no Alex here. So he went on birthright. He's had a great time going from north to south. Everything is going well. But he has something that really bugs him, and he said to one of the tripleters, rabbi, whatever, I have a question to you. He says, okay, ask. And he says, I don't understand one thing. Okay, I'm loving it. Israel is amazing. But I've been north, south. I've done everything. I don't understand what people are talking about. The whole idea of like Israel or Jerusalem is holy. I don't see anything holy here. I don't feel anything. So the rabbi asks him, are you a Gilupal? So the guy's like, what? He asks again, are you a Gilupal? And he says, what? I don't understand. He said, just answer, are you a Gilupal or not? So the guy's like, I don't know what that is. How can I tell you if I am or not? So the rabbi's asking him, can you define to me what holiness is? What do you think holiness is? Is it like angels flying down the street in rainbow colors? And what do you imagine that holiness is? So what happened to this guy? He has an undefined idea about holiness, which we don't know what he thinks that is. Going to Israel, making a claim and a statement, which people make a lot of statements about Israel, and they probably don't understand what they're saying. And we're probably I'll give an example of that later. But he came to a conclusion of something that he doesn't even know what that is. He doesn't know what holiness is. So how do you make a claim that Israel or Jerusalem is not? You can only make a claim about something or decide something if you actually understand what that means. So that's what we're talking about, defining our terms. So you feel more. I'll give again, let's say Alex and Jessica. I kind of got stuck to that because I was looking to make sure I don't have the name of the girl here. So Alex tells his mentor about Jessica, I love her and I think I want to marry her. So I would like to put it, to leave it to you. What do you think in this sentence are two things that need to be defined? Because if these things are not defined, he can hurt her, it can be miscommunication. She can understand one thing from this line, and he completely thinks different. So what do you think are the two things that need to be defined here in this sentence?
I think.
Okay, so he says, I think. Maybe, okay, he's not 100% sure, but think of what we said, defined terms, values. Great. So the first thing was love. What is love? What is love? Define what does it mean you love her? What she makes you feel, what she gives you, what is love? You have to understand what love means in order to say, I love you. In Hebrew, in Judaism, love is, it's a whole class, but love is giving. Really, did he mean that? I don't know. Did he mean he's committed to giving to her? Marriage, what does marriage mean? That's really interesting when I'm asking you what marriage means. I remember I did at one of our girls' Shabbaton. I did a local one at our house, actually, and the girls slept over in the back house. And late at night, on Friday night, after everyone left, we did this exercise. It was actually perfect when people are tired, because there's less filter. And so I told everyone to close their eyes and think in their head, focus on the word that I'm saying, and after, if they feel comfortable, to share what they feel. So I said, marriage. And it was silence, and I wanted to hear after what came up. So everyone had different feelings, warmth, whatever, connection, which is interesting because you will see that when you say one word, many people have different views or feelings towards that word or understandings of what that means. So the terms are not necessarily defined unless we learn those terms, the definitions. One girl actually told me, I remember I was kind of I was stunned by the answer. And I'm like, there's something there that we need to work on. She said isolation. That's something I never heard before. And I was like, wow, we got to talk. That's the last thing I would think of. And going backwards, and it kind of after meeting and working through, there were reasons why that, it's things that she saw maybe and growing up, and that did affect her dating and different things. And by working on the definition and what it means and correcting things, she was able to look at it in a different way and be more open to it. And now she's married, So it's amazing how a lot of the times it's in our head. We just have to make sure that we define things, that we make sure that we have the right definitions. And not just for us, but when we discuss things with people or we communicate. It's all about the communication. So that was another example. Let me see if I have time. I don't think I have time for more. I wanted to do it's funny. Under Israeli occupation, Palestinians are living in an apartheid state. We've heard that a lot. Obviously, I don't agree with any of that. But just the understanding how things are so wrong. People talk things that they don't understand. Do they know what? There's 3 things that need to be defined here. Occupation, what does that mean? Palestinian, who are they? How did they become? What's their heritage, if any? There is none. So there's a lot to look into that. And apartheid, what does that mean? What's the definition? Does Israel do that? So when we define things, it's crystal clear what the truth is. The problem is that there are no definitions. Nowadays, people don't want to look into definitions. So the truth is, you can't really have a conversation with someone who's not interested into defining things or fixing things, because then they're living life just through their lens. They don't really care about anything else. And it's probably not the person you would want to hang out with. We want to be around people who are growth-oriented, open to corrections, open to listening, to growing. That's the environment that we want to be in a positive environment where good things grow and blossom. That's the only way to do it. Okay, I'll move forward to the next thing. I want to make sure that I'm finishing everything today, so it's all clear. The next thing I want to introduce you to understand the importance of definitions is the game I, you, she, or he. It can be with men too. I. So when we refer to ourselves, how do we paint ourselves in most of the times? We're good. We might have things to work on, but we're kind of good. And we paint ourselves in a really nice way. We'll put it white for now, okay? We'll do it with the colors. You. So people around me, others. We don't want to necessarily, if I have something to say about them, we don't want to necessarily insult them to their face, so we kind of paint them gray. It's kind of in between. Sometimes it's like not here, not there, but we're not necessarily painting them bad. We're not necessarily painting them like awesome and good. And then the she or the he, when they're not around to defend themselves or just in general, how do we paint them black? Let's see how that turns out into reality. So I'll give you a scenario. I hope this scenario didn't happen, because that would be crazy. Jessica is on a date. Jessica again. She's got a long night tonight. They went hiking, okay? And they had a nice time. On their way back, Alex was driving. And on their way back down the mountain, I'm thinking in my head, down the mountain, going up to Running Springs and down, that's like a crazy road. But imagine something like windy mountain road and the guy, Alex, is zooming 90 miles per hour. I don't know if it's even possible, but she's gripping to the dashboard like fearing for her life, really, and it's a date. She turns to him and she tells him, "Are you not being a bit foolhardy?" Like, a bit, she said that. And he says, "Me?" As he's driving like crazy, "Of course not. I'm being brave. I'm not afraid of anything." Okay, we're not judging yet. We'll analyze everything after. Long story short, she's alive. She gets home. She calls a friend right away and she tells her, "This guy is nuts. He was a reckless idiot. I'm not going out again with him." Okay. So let's analyze the situation based on the I, you, she, or he game. The I, the guy, Alex, how did he paint himself? What did he say he is? Brave. Okay, that's one thing. Jessica tells him he is foolhardy. And what did she tell about him when he wasn't around? She said he is a reckless idiot. So here we have 3 different things about the same person. What is true? So how does that help us to understand? And again, in this case, it's very extreme. So it's easy. I wanted something extreme, so it's going to be easy for you to get what I am saying. But sometimes in life, it's not that extreme. That's why we have to look into the definitions of things. So let's look into it. Brave. What is brave? It's someone who takes the necessary risk for a greater cause, for a worthwhile purpose. Let's give an example. Unfortunately, it's a very relevant example. Firefighters rushing into a burning home to rescue people who are trapped. So they take a risk for an amazing cause. Like, it's worthwhile and they're doing their job and they're heroes. So that's what a brave person is, which he's clearly not. Number 2, foolhardy. What is that? What's the definition? Someone who takes unnecessary risk for a nice purpose, for a good cause. What could that look like? A regular citizen. I'm relaying it to the fires because it's kind of recent. A regular citizen, not wearing any protective gear, running into a burning home that there's no way he's going to get out of it just like that to rescue someone. So really what he does, he's putting himself in danger to rescue some others. According to Judaism, you're not allowed to do that. It says, "V'nishmartem me'od lenafshotechem." You have to look out for yourself first before you look out for others. You can run and help others, but maybe try and make sure you have minimum protective gear, maybe a fire blanket, whatever that is. Walking just like that into it, I don't know if it's that smart. So it says foolhardy is kind of like the medium. Well, taking unnecessary risk, but for a good cause. Okay? And then what's the definition of a reckless idiot is someone who takes unnecessary risk for absolutely no worthwhile purpose. There is no purpose in it. It's like a regular citizen. Let's make it more relevant to the times that we're in, unfortunately. A regular citizen walking into a burning home just to film or watch the beams fall down. Doesn't make sense. Total like crazy person, you're gonna die there. Well, that's crazy. Yeah, that's also, I don't know, maybe there's the harsher words than this. I don't know. Yeah, I'm sure. But yeah, someone who takes unnecessary risk for no worthwhile cause, anything, no purpose. Back to the car. Back to Alex and Jessica. So which one of these obviously fits Alex? Let's see, which is pretty clear. What she could ask him, if she actually would be a bit more open and I would say straightforward, she would say, why are we risking our lives for no purpose? What's the point of this? I don't appreciate it. If he does it to, like impress, maybe guys do that. They like driving fast, but you can make a point. I'm not impressed. Why are we doing this? So the guy would have to agree. I mean, if he's a nice guy, like, oh, I don't have a greater purpose here. It's just for no reason. And he is a reckless idiot. But you know what's the difference between this, if this would have happened on their date versus the scenario that happened? What do you think is the difference? If let's say they had this conversation, this question, it's not even a conversation, it's just a question defining something here, versus her just asking him, are you not a bit foolhardy, and then just running off? Which, again, we don't judge. You would probably run off too, but we're analyzing the situation right now. So what could have gone different with this? Anyone? Any ideas? Yeah.
Why he would do that, or what good purpose makes him think about why he did it, and he can stop and analyze, like, yeah, actually, this is stupid. Yeah.
Absolutely. And you know what? Someone who would be able to agree and say, you know what? Yeah, that is stupid, or I was stupid. Maybe there is hope in this relationship. Maybe something would have happened. I don't know. I mean, it was a first date, we said, so no promises. But just in general, we're okay with giving people chances as long as there is someone to talk to. There is communication. There is understanding. But in the other case, like, he was just like raving that he's brave, and it ended there because there was no further. She basically wasn't upfront enough, and the term foolhardy is not really the term to use for someone who does something like that, which is very extreme. That makes sense? Everyone got the idea that the definition is important here? Okay. So let's go back to the basics. So now you can probably think of yourself, okay, but maybe sometimes we use words, we're not really sure what we're saying. Not always. It's okay. We're not we're not encyclopedia like inside ourselves. We don't know everything. We're not what the word I'm looking for. The dictionary. I have the word in Hebrew, milon, but not the dictionary. That we don't know everything. So here's the thing. We're talking now about life. It's not just definitions of like what it means a reckless idiot, or we're talking about some things that guide our life based on the definitions that we know. So we learned that it's never too late to get your definitions straight. Think of concepts in your life that you use a lot, fundamentals that you believe in, and that you build your life on, and come up with the right definitions. Do some learning with yourself and understand what these are so you know that you're basing your life on something that you actually understand what that is. And it would lead you in the right path. So let's give an example. And that's something that I would say there's a lot of misconceptions about this value, you want to call it, or fundamental or concept, free will. Many people struggle with that. What is free will? So some people say, okay, it's choosing between good and bad. Is it really choosing between good and evil? Like, how many of us are really waking up every morning and saying, wow, what's going to be today? What kind of evil I'm going to do today? Or, I don't think anyone does that. I mean, I would like to believe. Or let's see, what kind of pain I can inflict on other people. There's some people that are doing the fires, but unfortunately, I mean, I'm talking about healthy people. That's not something that we would do when we look at our day or our life. It's not something we don't want to do evil necessarily. So, what does really the Torah tells us about free will? What is it then? So, to be honest, free will, I can give you a whole class on it, an hour and a half. But I'm going to do literally just surface level. And if you have questions, you can come to me after, or we can discuss it more, at a one-on-one or later. So what the Torah tells us, the Torah frames free will as choosing between life and death. Sounds super extreme. Choosing between life and death. What the verse tells us in Deuteronomy, in Devarim, I have placed life and death before you, blessings and curse, and you shall choose life. That's what the Torah says. What is free will? One of our understandings, big understandings we have on that, is the decision. Listen carefully. What is free will? Is the decision. It is the decision between what your soul wants to do, which is grow, explore, connect to its source, reach greater heights, reach your potentials, all like the spiritual things, undertake challenges. It's basically the point where the decision between what your soul wants, which we just said what our soul wants, to what our body feels like doing. Body feels like escaping pain, sleeping, instant gratification, not dealing with challenges. It's just things that seem to be like, we call it like death, that are blocking our soul from reaching greater heights. And why do we choose to do these things necessarily? Not because we want to choose death and we want to choose evil. It's just the body that brings us down. It's the physical. It's not the spiritual. Spiritual and physical are two separate worlds. We have our soul, which is a very spiritual thing, and we have a body, which is a very physical thing. And the soul is inside the body, and there's always constant friction. But our job in life is to learn the balance, how to live in peace with both. So, and what does it mean, harmony? Happiness, wholesomeness, someone that you want to be around them, they're just overflowing with positivity, just a fun person to be around with. And there are some people that people get attracted to them. Why? There's something there that people like. It's not even anything they say, but there's certain wholesomeness. So what we always try to do in Judaism, it talks a lot about finding the balance between what my body wants to what my soul wants, and pretty much live in peace. So here, what we say is, yeah, we choose like the death, in a way, the negative things to do, it's what we feel like doing, not what we truly need to be doing or want to be doing, because it's easier, totally easier to push things to another day, or just sleep in and not deal with the world today, or too much going on and I just don't have the energy for that. But that's really what my body wants. Soul wants something different. So to remember, what is free will? Free will is choosing the choice between what your soul wants and what your body wants. And remember that, because that is throughout our life. It's always going to be something that we work on. And, I'll give you even an example that a lot of times we have people that come through our doors. You can look at them, and they can be even above the age range that we work with. And we would meet with them, and they will be like, I have everything. I've acquired everything, meaning I have the dream job that I wanted, I have the house, I have the car, I have everything. But I feel like I have nothing. And really and it explains to you also all the fame and all the celebrity life and why people are so unhappy, because really it's not enough. Satisfying your body and everything else out there, it's good for the body, but the soul is screaming, there's nothing there. So mentally and emotionally and spiritually, the person is dead. There is nothing there. So eventually, unfortunately, we hear of people that, even extreme, people that commit suicide, and you're like, why? It seemed like from the outside they had everything, but yet they probably had nothing. Purpose, personal growth, like none of that. So their soul didn't feel anything, any connection. And a soul that is not fed is not good. Let's put it this way. So that's just understanding. So when we apply the definition of free will to our life, let me kind of like share with you maybe what it can sound like, a conversation between your body and soul, kind of like inside of you. Do you want to be great? Sure, we answer. But I'm not feeling like making any effort today. That's normal. People feel that. I feel like sleeping in, pushing it off, dealing with issues another day, not my thing for today. Okay, so you actually don't want to be great. You want to be average. No, I don't want to be average, but I don't want to work on myself today. Simple, not interested. Why not today? Okay, so the answer is, our body answers, because I don't feel like it. It's much easier not to work, honestly. Do whatever I want. For a longer term, I'm hurting myself. But right now, that's what I want. So the soul asks, who says, and that's the biggest question, because I think in our life, this is what we're taught. Do what you feel like. Judaism tells you, who says that you have to do what you feel like? Who said? Who said that we have to do what we feel like? In life, we don't always do what we feel like. We need to do what we want to do. We know we want to be great. We want to be successful. We want to find someone we want. But what stops us from getting there? Based on what I say, what stops us from getting there? Yes, it's pretty much ourselves not wanting to invest, work, it's time, it's effort. Who wants to look internally and start identifying their problems and start working? Many people don't want to do that. And you know what? When it comes to a point where they're looking for someone, that's when everything surfaces and comes up, because you cannot find someone if you don't know who you are. And if you're confused, or you're not sure what you need, or you only want someone to fill in your needs, or to fill in the lacking that you have, it's probably not going to last long or end well. Based on Judaism, and this is something that we focus on a lot in our dating series that we do once a year, we look at dating as a journey to discover yourself. That is dating. Not through someone else. We hope people don't do it through dating other people, because that's not the goal. The goal is not to hurt people because I want to learn about myself. The goal is invest in yourself. When you invest in yourself, other people can invest in you too. And that's just, okay, I went further into dating, but I think it's kind of relevant to most people.
I have a question.
So, yeah.
I might not have an answer.
Yeah. By the way, I might not have an answer to everything, but I always like to look into it, and I'll probably get back to you with something.
Yeah. What proportion of the time should we prioritize the soul versus the body?
Okay, so that is a very, very good question. We usually look at our life like this. We need to eat 3 times a day or whatever the diet is, great. So, skipping on that. You need to sleep. You need to work. Work is not only just to make money, but it's also be fulfilled. Hopefully it's something that you are fulfilled and you like. Okay. And you need social life because you're a human being and human beings need interactions with other human beings. So some need it less, some need it more, but you need something. So every person makes their own kind of schedule for the week. What are the things they need to plug in? Working out helps me be happy, get that adrenaline going, helps me feel confident in myself. Great. So you put everything you need in there, but don't forget that at least 1 or 2 of the things have to be something for your soul. What is something for your soul? Learning, any aspect of fulfilling your soul, which is doing something that's greater than what your body feels like doing right now. You might not feel like coming out to a class, or you might not feel like coming out to Taco Tuesday because you're tired and you just came home from work. But you know what? When you push yourself, that's when you feel better. Many, many times people tell me, it's funny because they're like, oh, I didn't think of coming today, Taco Tuesday, but I saw your story and I felt like I needed to be there. And then they come 20 minutes later and I'm like, oh, you're here. That's cool. I thought you're not coming. They're like, no, I felt like I needed this for my soul. Or people showing up at Shabbat and I needed this in my week. What does that mean? It's their soul needed it. They are in tuned and they realize, and we don't need to wait in life until something happens or we lose something, which tend to be usually the wake-up call. And then we realize, oh, this is something that I haven't been doing my whole life, and now I should be investing in myself. Because when it comes to personal growth and learning and Torah learning, any of that is healing. This is what our soul wants. Our soul is a divine piece. We believe it's in the image of Hashem. And any kind of learning is connecting our soul to our spiritual source. And that's what fulfills the soul. Any good deeds that you do, anything that you do for others, not just for yourself. So the thought of, oh, I'm not just thinking of myself. I'm going to volunteer, or I'm going to whatever that is, gives people purpose. So everyone is individual, but answer your question, to know the balance, you need to line up your week, put everything that you know you have to do for livelihood, for everything else, for mental health, social, but also don't forget the learning part, because that is the soul. And that's what our soul needs. I hope I answered your question.
So I'm sorry, is the soul strictly learning and helping others?
It's anything that's, when we look at the Torah, any good deed that we have, like even giving charity, smiling to someone, anything is the connection to our soul. It's a way for us to connect to our soul and elevate our soul to make sure that we, throughout our lifetime, maximize our potential and we do our job in this world. Now, we're not born necessarily with a manual that tells us, we are born with a manual, that's the Torah, but it doesn't necessarily tell us individually, this is what your job is, this is what your job. How do we find that? So the rabbis teaches us that, how do we know what our purpose is? The areas that we struggle the most in life, that's where the key to our breaking through and maximizing our potential. So the areas that we find that we're lacking, those are the area that we need, not necessarily in the physical world, but I'm saying spiritually, emotionally, those are the areas that we need to invest, and we will feel good when we do. Because that's investment in yourself, not for anyone else, not through anyone else, it's for you and to you. Okay, so it could be learning. It could be learning on a one-on-one. It could be discussing something meaningful, not just gossip. It could be anything. But when you make it meaningful, it would mean something to you. And as people grow in their journey, in their Jewish journey, that would mean different things to them. So it could be that they pass a certain level and they're like, I want more. Give me more. Like, there's always more. Okay? Okay, so going back to our point, let me see where I was. Oh, okay, so I stopped after we said that. Who said that we need to do what we feel like doing? We need to do what we want to do in life. And really what we said originally, I want to be great. Everyone wants to be great. So what is being free? What is free will? Is doing what we want to do, not what we feel like. So our body is what pulls us down and tells us, it's hard. I don't want to deal with it. I don't want to deal with this person. I just want to ignore the call. I just want to ignore that person. I don't want to deal with it. But you know what? At some point, you'll have to do that. Better deal with it now and get it done with. And hopefully you do it in the right way and you have the right guidance to make sure that you do and you move on. Less heartaches, less problems. But when we don't do that, we're not free. We don't have a free will. We basically are trapped into our body that decides for us what to do. It's like, I'll give you an example also. When it comes to Rabbi Jack, my husband loves giving that example. He always jokes that he's on a million diets trying to lose weight. And he always has this thing, and he says, about eating cake, okay? Especially we have a lot of desserts every event ever. And the biggest question is always like, okay, what's freedom? If he sees the cake, he said, I want to eat it. And you eat it. Are you free? So honestly, no. You're basically following what your physical body tells you to do. I want sugar. I want that cake, so get that cake. What is freedom? I'm not going to be controlled by my body. I'm going to do what's the right thing for me to do. Therefore, if the right thing for me to do is not to eat that cake, then I'm free. I'm actually freeing myself from that. It's a very deep concept that needs a lot more into it, but just another idea when it comes to freedom. What is freedom? You know, the idea of free will and that we choose. The fact that we're choosing or we're doing something that's harder, that doesn't mean we're not free. That means that we're freeing ourselves, whether it's that challenge, whatever, and moving on. Every time we conquer something, we move on to another thing. There's always something else waiting for us around the corner, and that's what helps us grow. Look at successful people out there. Every single one of them have a story. How from their challenges, from their poverty, from their problems, whatever, with health and whatever, they were like the most neglected kid, whatever it is, and then they became what they became, and they can help other people. Pushing themselves through, and someone else that can be in the same situation and blame it and end up in prison and say, like, it's my surrounding, it's my parents, it's my who knows what. We're not saying it's not true that that didn't have an effect. But the fact that we're not necessarily allowing ourselves to become victims to our life and to what happens to us, we take charge. We take control and we say we are in control of our lives, no one else and nothing else. It's me, of course, together with Hashem. Hashem, God, is deciding for me what's going to be in my life. And that's a whole different discussion, which I can do another time, of where exactly the free will, if Hashem knows, but the knowledge doesn't necessarily affect your free will. That's for another thing. At the end of the day, you get to choose between what your body wants versus what your soul wants. Okay. So to wrap it up, wow, it's great. I hope you can stay with me for another few minutes. We're going to wrap it up. I would like to extract some more insights that we can learn from the idea of listening. We're going to go back to the listening. It's all started with Shmiat HaOzen, effective listening, and we said that rule. There are two other areas that we need to pay attention and listen to, not just in a conversation. The first thing is listening to what we see, read, or experience in life. We can spend an hour reading something, probably happened to me at least, and I don't remember after like an hour what I read, or like what was the point of what I read. I wasn't focused. We can sometimes spend time on things, and there was nothing after that we gained from it. So what we need to make sure is that anything that's worth my time, whether it's a hike that I decided to go on, or read a book, or read the news, whatever that is, needs to be productive. Anything that I do needs to be productive. If it's worth my time, worth my effort, it needs to be productive. It needs to teach me something. So what we try to do is we set a goal. Oh, I need to go on a hike because I need a break. We need to not just do things in life, but also stop sometimes and like, why am I doing what I'm doing? Oh, I need a break. I need whatever. So I want to go on a hike. I want to listen to music. I need to read right now. And when you make that goal, after you do that, after that experience, you can revisit it and say, what did I learn from that experience? Did I reach my goal? Oh, that was good. So that was a productive thing that I did. It wasn't just like a piece of data that I read or something just lost in my brain, some kind of an experience that I learned nothing from. It was just a waste of time. And our time is limited, so we want to make sure that everything we do is productive, everything. So whether it's, like I said, experience, or you read something, or you see something, nature, whatever that is, it needs to be listened to, kind of like tune in to what are the experiences that you're doing. You'll feel connected to yourself and to all the lessons that are coming from it as well, because we can learn from everything. The second thing is listen to the events in your life. So it does take time to introspect and define lessons that happen from significant, I'm saying not just anything, but significant things that happen in your life. And I'll give an example. Someone got laid off from work and they're very sad, they're stressed. Now, without articulating it or looking too deeply into it, let's say it's a guy, and they'll say like, okay, I just can't trust employers. That's why they come out of it. And some people do that too, which is not good. And I'm just like never gonna have a successful career. I don't know where I'm at. I'm already 30 and I got laid off and like never gonna have it. So that's being obviously hard on yourself and like negative. That's not gonna get someone anywhere. But looking at it in a different perspective, you know, introspecting more. Once that guy would recognize, wait, there's something that happened. It's a life event. I got such a boom into my life. I gotta zoom in and see maybe there's something I can learn from. Doing some thinking, what is it? Maybe I could change something. And then they come to the realization, you know, I need to improve my work habits and my interpersonal skills. That will help me. And you know what? So when someone comes to that realization, we know that the next job they're going to walk into, they'll be more in tune and more aware, oh, there's certain things I need to work on. Certain things didn't work for me in the past. It led me to failing in my job and not succeeding. There's something I got to do. Versus blaming the workplace, everyone else, but doing nothing about it, and then it's pretty much like a cycle that will probably come back. If the person does not change something from that experience that they experienced, it will come back in a different way. Until we learn the lesson, until we need to grow in life. And if we don't learn the lessons from certain things, we look at it as, wow, what a waste of time. You've spent so much time at your work. You went through all that, you know, sadness and being upset and stressed and no money for nothing. At the minimum, you need to extract something from it and say, what does that teach me? And, you know, I'll relay that to what's happening now with the fires. I don't have an answer. No one has an answer why. But it does say that if something happens, in Judaism, it does say that if something happens in my city, something bad, it's for everyone in the city to introspect and think, what is it that we can do? Not to change what happened, because what happened I can't change, but to make sure that that changed me. That I'm not moving on with my life like nothing happened. So it was really interesting, for those of you who were at Shabbat, it was so amazing how most people came up with the same realization. Because I asked people to share, what did you come up with? What were your experiences? Anything. It didn't have to be anything like super deep. Some people went very deep, and they said, wow, there is one, like most of them pretty much learned the same thing. They said, wow, we realized that material things just don't last forever. Especially being in LA and the money and the fame and all that, which could be artificial. We said it's not a guarantee for happiness and for being successful in your own personal life. And people literally said, I never thought that everything can be taken away from you within 1 hour. 2 hours, 3 hours. It's not even that much. It's everything people have built their whole life. Their house was everything. So that's something that it was so amazing to see that they already had a perspective. Something's changed. They're like, I'm trying to be and understanding it, less being attached to my things, to my belongings, to my car, to paying attention. Oh, he has that, he doesn't have that. Maybe there are other things in life that are more important than that, because that's not something that stays with us forever. So that's just a thought for everyone. You know, I like that, and I'm like, I'm still looking for even more than that, deeper, but I find that is such an amazing message for all of us. And, you know, and I feel like living in LA, and it's a beautiful place, and there are a lot of beautiful things here. And the car and the money and the fame and all that is also important for people. So I'm not here to say it's not important at all, but I think it's all about perspectives. Do we make it our idol, that that's what it is, and then when it's gone, it's gone. People are really crushed to the ground. But when we have perspectives, thank God, many people respond to me like, because we knew that they lost their house. Their parents lost their house in the fire, and they said, thank God, we're alive. And I'm like, that's amazing to hear. That is a perspective. They lost everything, or they check on other people that lost their everything. And they're like, how are you doing? And like, and it's amazing. Wow, how can they think out of their box? They should be so immersed in their sadness, and like how would they even rebuild? What does it mean? How many years? What would they end up in the meantime? Like, but no, they're able to get out of that. It means something about them. It means like they're amazing people, that they've done something good, that it's something that they're not only wrapped up about their own situation and about the physical things. So that's just like a small thing I wanted to share. So it's the listening to the events in our lives, the things that happen around us. Try to learn something from anything that you are either involved with or happen around you, so you don't just pass by. You take from everything that happened in life and you gain from it. You change yourself through that. And then obviously the last thing I said, it was 3. Listen to what we see, read, and experience in life. Listen to the life events. And the last thing was listening to what people say, which was the majority of the beginning, the LRD rule: listen, repeat, and define. And then we play the game, understanding the I, you, she, or he game, where understanding that defining terms, defining, concepts like free will or anything like that can change our perspective and can lead us to more clarity, avoid problems, and have a more wholesome and successful communication with people. And in general, just happiness, and happiness is a whole thing on its own, but it definitely adds to that. Beautiful. That's everything I wanted to give over today, and I'm glad we managed to do that. Took me an hour, but thank you. Any questions? Now that the class is officially done? I mean, I have a, I'm gonna hear you in a second. I want to try and do that every session. I'm gonna give you actually an exercise for the week until I see you next time. Again, if you feel comfortable, you can share. If you don't, but it's for you, mainly. Something to work on for that week based on what we spoke about. And you can share in the following week what that did to you, or how it changed anything for you, or if it changed your perspective or anything. And you'll see slowly. So these things, if you really do it, you'll see that it makes a big difference for you. Guarantee, I've had people that have done it, and I've been doing this also one-on-one with a lot of women, and they come after a while, they're like, oh my gosh, look where, and sometimes we write things, and I tell them, keep it for like in 3 months from now. See if your definitions change. If you change, we all change, but to what direction, it's just amazing to see. So yeah, Ashley, before, yeah.
Yeah, no, I was gonna say in relation to how you said definitions and stuff, like bravery kind of has like more of a clear-cut definition, but what if the thing that you're talking about is happiness, for example? To you, it might mean something else, and to the other person. So when you come to define it, you're still gonna have arguments. It's just not a clear-cut.
Right. So let me tell you, everything. So that's why I'm basing everything. Obviously, we're Jewish here, and we're basing everything on Judaism. And we believe that the Torah has all the wisdom for us to be the best, to end our life at the maximum that we can. It's all up to us. And really, if we say, how do we know, or what the direction, or everyone has their own, it's like, I feel this way, you feel that way, everyone have their own truth nowadays. But that's why we have the Torah. That's why we have our wisdom, and we learn through it. Let's say we say, oh, I want to learn about happiness. Great. I could give you a whole class, 2 classes, send you on YouTube classes. It just would give you perspective. What is happiness? So it's not about what I think happiness is versus what she thinks it is and what she thinks. It's what the real definition of happiness and how that applies to me. Okay, so that's through learning. So that's one of the things that, I said I'm going to give kind of like an exercise is to take a few either fundamentals or concepts in your life that maybe you haven't defined yet, like happiness. Sit on it for a few minutes, do some research, what that brings to you, what can you bring to the table that can help you.
Have your definitions, and then you want to talk about it, then you won't know what's actually the definition.
The question is, right, so what we would say here is not just making our own definition, looking for the right definition, which is based on the Torah view. What does the Torah, which we believe the blueprint to life, and we understand that the Torah was a book that was created even before us, before mankind. It's said in Kabbalah that God, in a way, it's not a human being, but looked in the Torah and then created the world. So that means, it also tells us, by the way, the Torah is not anything that's old-fashioned or worked for previous generations and not for us. We understand many concepts nowadays more than they probably understood before, like the importance of Shabbat, the idea of disconnect. Nowadays, it's an in thing, even in other religions. It's like the whole idea of detox and like you have retreats with no phones and no internet and like, where's all that coming from? Because we're so drawn to everything. The world didn't have necessarily that idea of Shabbat. You really unplug to connect. So it's not your definition versus the other person's definitions. It's you both check the real definition. And you see what that would mean to you. And that will be through learning, diving into the sources and understanding what happiness, for example, is, which I'm happy to give you a lot on that. Yeah.
But I think I get what you're getting at. Like, what if the other person doesn't care what the real definition is? Like, is that more?
So give me an
It's
example.
not like coming to an agreement, because you can look at an objective definition of something, but if you're not both willing to work towards that,
Right.
then that's the problem.
So here's the thing. So I think you're kind of answering it though, because this is what communication is. So if we don't, let's say, don't agree on something, we don't have to agree, but if it affects our relationship, we have to find the middle ground. So if we're talking about a value or a concept, we both have to learn it. If the other side is not willing, then look at it as you don't have a partner for work. So who are you going to work with? If someone is stuck with their own ways, let's say, regardless of Torah and Judaism or anything, how do you work with them? They're always going to bring their own truth to the table, and they don't care about what you say. So it's...
That's why relationships don't work out. So.
Right. And you know what? It's interesting, because I remember a while ago, a girl asked me, she went on a date, and she said the guys told her that in a relationship, the man is the captain of the ship. And she's like, I was so annoyed. Like, what do you mean? You know, when you have decisions to make, you don't just make it on your own. Like, what about the girl? Whatever. So she didn't like the answer. And she came to ask, like, what is that? Is that true? Like, what's the story with that? So I remember Rabbi Jack was answering her. He is not the captain, and she is not the captain. God is. When we bring the idea of there is authority, we know what's right or wrong. We don't make up like, oh, I think today that's the right thing to do. I think tomorrow you think differently. So there will be no clear cut of what right and wrong in general. That's what we've been saying for 3,000 years. We have Torah. We have clear cut of what things are. So when we want to know, we look into it. We learn and we define it. And when we start learning and defining, we see, oh, how is that relevant to my life now? But again, you can't necessarily, work with someone if they're not willing to work. That's regardless of anything. Just like in relationships, it has to be both ways. They have to be able to accept someone else's opinion. They have to be able to respect that. You don't have to agree, but saying, I have a truth, this is what I think happiness is, and you think that happiness is, it's not necessarily trying to work with you. And that is a problem. And our goal is to work with someone, to have some kind of a communication where it's not just you talking and you saying what you care about, but you also listening. Where's the listening part? If they don't know about the listening, maybe you educate them about that. But if you say they don't want to hear about it, so how do you have a relationship with someone like that? It's hard.
It's impossible.
Right, so it's not a relationship. No. So many people are in a relationship. It could be very toxic, it could be very bad for them. We're talking about a good, healthy one. It has to be someone who is mature enough to be willing to work. And like we said, it's work. So many people don't want to work. It's easier to just do whatever you want. That's my truth. Nowadays, it's very fashionable. I feel today like this, tomorrow I feel like that. Who you are to tell me different. So, yeah. And I think when we don't have our set core values of what things are, people are confused. Definitely leads to confusion. Anyone else has any questions? Any other questions before we wrap up? Amazing. Thank you so much. That was beautiful. Our first session.